Hello and welcome back to the Avoiding Average podcast. My name is Susan Gates, your host, and today I'm super excited because I have my friend here, Kristy Dudley, and we actually met through Reddit, of all places, and became accountability buddies for our coaching businesses. And so I'm super excited to bring her on here to share about her journey and everything that she's gone through and where she's going. So, Kristy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Awesome. So, Chrissy, could you go ahead and just give a little bit of a background on you and where you've been and where you plan on going?
sure. So I'm a mom, and I've been a single mom for several years until I met an amazing man who's 11 years younger than me. I don't know how that worked, but yeah, we live in a cute little place in Tempe, Mesa, Arizona. And I guess you can say up until about like 2020, my life has been quite a whirlwind. So I'm happy to stand here with my 2 feet on the ground, being open and willing to share what I've learned with other people who could probably avoid some suffering.
Yeah. So 2020, I feel like that was just a big year for the world in general and a lot of people kind of waking up to their own truth. And so can you kind of walk through, I guess, just what you went through during that time frame and what's changed for you?
Sure. Okay. So I guess I'll get through this pretty quickly, but there was a very toxic childhood, a drill sergeant father. He was there and he loved us, but it was really tough. We were so different. Him and I was kind of like the black sheep of the family. Um, Fast forward, I was in a very toxic, abusive marriage. We had 3 children. In that marriage, he was addicted to drugs. Eventually, I got addicted to opiates as well, and we did that together. There was CPS involved, et cetera, et cetera. And fast forward to about 2019, I realized that something needs to change. This addiction needs to go away. I need to get rid of this partner. I need that to go in the past. It was something, I can't explain it. It was like guidance of some sort. And I listened to that. I stopped talking to my husband and I went and got clean. The thing about when you're addicted to opiates, I was a single mom throughout most of it. I left my husband in 2013, and we kind of just did that back and forth thing like every 6 months to a year till 2019. I was raising my children addicted to opiates as a functioning addict. The thing about opiate addiction is you need like about a week to 10 days to really get clean, and you're just literally bedridden with flu, like the worst flu you can imagine. So I was kind of just stuck. I didn't, as a single mom, I didn't have any help. It was really hard for me to find that week to 10 days to have someone take care of my babies while I was able to get sick. So I just maintained for quite a few years as a functioning addict, going to school, working, etc. And then just kind of like worked out for me in December 2019, where I was able to stay at a friend's for about a week and a half. My children were fine. They were with their dad's mother, and it just kind of worked out. I got clean, and with the clarity of mind after that, um, I was led down a series of TED Talks that were kind of just changing my perspective of life. I mean, I went through religious trauma when I was young. I really was a dogmatic, hardcore Christian who really thought my head was going to get chopped off when I became an adult. So I didn't care about my future. And that's somewhere in the book of Revelation. And my mom was a strict Christian who traumatized me. And at that point, I just really didn't care about my future. But anyways, fast forward, I was led down a series of TED Talks of just changing my perspective of reality. I do feel like I was guided through this entire process by something I couldn't see. I felt it. I felt like someone was with me. And anyways, one day I watched a Manly P. Hall video about the human biofield, and that was a game changer for me. And this span was from I got sober end of December 2019, and I saw this Manly P. Hall video in February. So it was like bam, 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 bam. Christian thinking people are going to go to hell to like, whoa, I believe in everything. And so yeah, this Manly P. Hall video just kind of saved me when it came to broadening, opening my mind, unbinding my mind. And so I had this inner conflict because my roots, my cellular memory was Christian theology, right? So I'm like, okay, I need this to make sense, because now like I know that something, there's much more. And what I believe is that if you don't believe in this doctrine, you're going to go to hell. So I needed to level that out within me. And so one day I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to think about something real quick, and I'm not betraying the faith, okay? Just let me venture down these crevices of the mind, because this has to make sense. And as a Christian, you're afraid to go down these. You get little tugs of what ifs, but you're afraid to go down there because you feel like they're going to betray the faith. You feel like you're betraying your faith. You feel like you're going to go to hell and have separation forever, right? Even a thought you don't want to have, because you feel like you're going to be separated from God and go to hell forever. That's just what I felt, anyways. And I think a lot of Christians feel that way. So, anyways, I'm like, okay, God, let me just ponder this, okay? What if Jesus was an allegory? And like when I had that thought, things just like I had like celebration noises go off in my head, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." It freed me up from so many what I don't know, inconsistencies of belief. It made everything that I had just realized in the past 3 months, and everything that I believed in my heart from the Christian faith, it all made sense. And I was like, "Wow, it's not about the man or the death or what someone else did or what you have to do. It's about the spirit of Christ and how Christ lived. Be like that. That's what it's about." And at that point on, my works changed. My fruits have changed. I cared more about what kind of person I am. I cared more about virtue and integrity and actually living like Christ. And it was not had nothing to do with religion anymore. And that changed my life. And then that led to a series of more truth seeking. I've always been a truth seeker, but at that point, I'm like, I need to find way more. So I just dug and dug and dug. And like COVID came out right after that. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I had the mental mechanics to find out exactly how viruses invade and how the cells have to allow the viruses to invade. And I'm like, after that, I'm like, you guys, we're good. It depends on the machinery of our cells. It's all up to us if we want the virus to invade you guys. We're good. But yeah, I don't know. Something just came over me. And then for months, I had this. I think I even had like a Satori experience where I was in absolute bliss for probably about 4 hours. And my friend, he walked with me on this path, kind of just as an observer. Even he was intoxicated by what I was feeling. Even it was fascinating. And yeah, I feel very blessed to have all that experience. But yeah, that was my awakening journey. So
Yeah, that's a wild ride, right?
I know it's a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the span of your life and then also over the past few years, I feel like you've gone through so much that a lot of people, one, probably have never gone through. And then two, just being able to go and take care of yourself so that you can get clean. And then opening yourself up to new things. And then having the bravery to basically go up against your deep rooted fears of, betraying Christ or betraying your Christian faith.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, very a lot of courage.
Yes, yes, and ultimately it ended up, to you feeling this deep sense of freedom, freedom to explore and learn and grow and become who you are today, in a sense. Um, so I guess taking a step back, like what was that like for you? I mean, I can't imagine the struggle that you must have gone through as far as, knowing that you wanted to get clean and then knowing that you also had to take care of your children. I I don't know that feeling. I don't know what that's like. And I imagine it was a very challenging thing that you kind of had to go back and forth with. But I'd love to hear from your own experience what that was like for you.
Oh, that was so tough because I was unhealthy. So my mind wasn't healthy. So, I'm so lucky that my priority, this sounds so twisted, but my priority was my children. And this sounds so weird, but because of that, I made sure that I always had medicine for the next day so I can take care of them. I know that sounds so weird, but I was doing it to maintain. I didn't do it to feel high. I did it to maintain. And it was interesting. And it probably is one of the greatest challenges I have ever had, especially um, we lived in a nice home. My grandma helped take care of me. We lived in a She has a lot of money, and we lived in a luxurious apartment complex in Scottsdale, Arizona. They had everything. They had new clothes. They had anything they wanted. Because I worked and my grandma helped with the rent, and yeah, I was a secret heroin addict, and it was tough. But again, I wasn't very healthy minded. But I'm just thankful for the whatever was with me, because there was something always with me that kept me strong enough to be able to keep them as my priority, the kids, and whatever way you can receive that from an unhealthy person. um what it did for me, though, it kept me from becoming drowned in my belief systems and my, I didn't know if I was going to go to hell because I divorced my husband. I realized that I had grounds because he had gotten another girl pregnant through our marriage, but I had that conflict. I didn't know when I was going to get beheaded. I'm a Pisces, so like spirituality is important to me, and when I believe something, I'm going to believe it hard, and I'm going to seek and seek and seek until I find all the truth that I need to find. That's just me. So I lived it hard, and honestly, I think that I probably should have seen a therapist or a mentor or something.
Yeah, I can't imagine one trying to work through the challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day life with being in an altered state of mind as well. I mean, I think most people have felt the effects of alcohol and how it changes your perception of the world around you, right? And so I imagine there's something similar in a sense with heroin or other opiates, but it sounds like you were able to at least recognize that, be able to take the first step. And so going from the functioning addict state to feeling more mentally clear, what was kind of like your biggest takeaway? Like what did you kind of look back on those years prior after that point?
There was a lot of pride and ignoring, like, oh, I wasn't that bad, oh, or well, my husband made me do it because he had it around all the time and I was depressed, and blaming, and there was a lot of that, blaming the medical industry for giving me a bunch of Vicodin when I got my car accident that made me like it, all that. And then it was accountability, where I had this overwhelming sense of self-love, like, oh my gosh, you're just a little baby. You didn't know, you're just a human. And man, oh man, girl, you've had a rough ride. I get it. So there's definitely a lot of different emotions to process. And then you're mad at yourself. Like, how dare you? These babies are amazing. They're precious. They deserve the world. And then you go right back. You don't want to be in that shame or guilt. You want to move up the themes of consciousness into neutrality, and which is a beautiful thing, because parent guilt is a real thing. Like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like, any mom or dad, like, parent guilt is insane. So I tried not to stay in that too long because that could take me down. But yeah, I always would result to self love.
Yeah. Did you have any sort of like mantras or anything like that that you used during that time that was helpful for you?
You know what? There's a book called The Inner Work by the Yoga Couple, and it talks about the themes of consciousness. That book is a game changer, especially for someone that's stuck in lower themes of consciousness like shame or judgment. Because I was stuck in shame. And then the whole concept of self love and loving yourself and forgiving, that was like, whoa, that was new to me, because as a Christian believer, like, the judgment from God is insane. It's real. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. You're always teeter tottering on regret for what you did and not making sure you're not going to hell. It's just, there's no peace in that. At least there wasn't for me. I know I'm very intense in my beliefs, and I have to know something from the inside out before I accept it or make my own explanation for what makes sense to me. And that probably didn't serve me when it comes to like organized religion and doctrines, because I'm very intense. But yeah, it was a wild ride. And then towards the end of my addiction, fentanyl came out and started being kind of hidden, and what it was normal. And at that point, that's when I was like, this is terrible. This has got to go. This has got to be a thing of my past. Plus, I just didn't want to be like an old drug addict. I knew that wasn't me. But I think the self love thing was the game changer for me. The moment I realized that that was a thing and that is what the creator of all that is really wants of us is self love and acceptance and just being kind to ourselves. I was like, whoa. And then I gave myself freedom to choose me. And that felt really good because my whole past, it was about giving to others, self-sacrifice. Because I was like, that's what Jesus did, right? I need to be like that. So I truly believed that the more abuse I took from people, the more in God's favor I was. And I really believed that. So I kind of was like, well, this life is gonna suck, but at least when I die, I'm gonna have God's favor. I'm gonna have a really great afterlife. So I'm just gonna take the abuse now. I can take it. It was pretty twisted. So I think when I realized that I'm supposed to love myself, then I'm like, all right, it's on. Screw everyone. I'm first. And it felt really good. And there's a lot of healing.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. It's so fascinating to hear like your perspective from prior to this awakening, where religion or Christianity essentially was all about judgment, which, in at least in my opinion, it it really is more towards that love, the unconditional love, and the fact that self love was what set you free is such a perfect analogy for like what everybody kind of, I don't say needs to go through, but like that's a part of this journey is loving yourself to the point that you are able to fully and truly be the highest expression of yourself, right? Um, and so that's an incredible journey for you to describe. Um, what I guess what kind of drew you towards? I know you're interested in like astrology and coaching, and what drew you down that path?
Well, you know what? I've always been like the kind of person that like had that wiser perspective for my friends, even when I was young and immature. And so I'd always like give that advice. And then after February, March 2020, people were telling me, especially my friend Rich, he's great. He would just tell me, you need to do this for a living. You help so many people. And so I think it was building up my confidence from what other people were saying. Cause really, I didn't believe I had much worth at all. My self worth, even then in early 2020, mid 2020, was not very great. I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid to have boundaries. I didn't know my own boundaries. I didn't know where I ended and someone began. So there was a lot of inner work. And I don't know. I love transformation. I'm a transformation junkie. I want to see transformation. I love it that I did it. I want to see others do it. So I guess it's subtle now, but like I'm kind of annoyed with the oligarchy and the system. So I kind of want to take them down. Not really, but I want to I want to wake people up. I want to lessen their power as much as I can by empowering others to remind them of who they really are. And I also do want to say I think it's important that the Bible to me makes more sense than it did. It makes more sense because it's for the eyes who can see, right? It's written in parables and allegory and I'm so blessed, but I've realized how to read the Bible and how amazing it is that it matches with Eastern philosophy. It's really cool. So I do want to add that in there that I think the Bible is even more fascinating. And what it is, it's an account of the human condition. It's about you. The Bible is not about a history of stories. Maybe it is, but the potent medicine that I get from the Bible is when I read it and I see that it is talking to me. There are themes of consciousness, there's states of being. Each story is a state of the human condition and a journey of a state of being within the human condition. So I wanted to add that real quick. But yeah,
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I think that yeah, what draws me to that is I have a fire in my soul. I have a lot to say. I think ultimately I want to get on. I want to talk to 100, 1,500, whatever people because I feel like I have potent messages that can help rewire the mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, even just your statement about like the Bible being a story about you, a
Mhm.
human going through the human experience is really cool to think about. I'm not Christian. I was raised Muslim, but um, similar sort of thing. I mean, there's like the words that you read in those texts. they're not exactly clear cut, right? And I
Okay.
think that's why we have a lot of different interpretations of what
Yeah.
that means. And so for you going through that process of recognizing that there's more to it than just,
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
stories, the tales, and the deeper meaning. Was there any particular section of the Bible that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, like it talks about, I like the book of Revelation, for instance. Edgar Casey has a really good interpretation of the book of Revelation. But that was the book that kept me in bondage for so long, right? Like I'm afraid of getting 666 and being beheaded. Like that scared the shit out of me. It changed the trajectory of my life as a 10-year-old. And I don't want to blame my mom or anything. Like she's doing the best she can too, right? But I don't think anyone really knew how deep that impacted me. So, anyways, yeah, the book of Revelation, I realized that it's not about the future, although the oligarchy, I call this system the oligarchy, but I think they utilize this book specifically, but religion, but the book of Revelation to create a future of that type of state and the dystopian future, and that's the book of Revelation. And you know how we manifest what the collective is constantly thinking. So I think that is relevant to say why it could be heading towards the dystopian future because people believe that part of the book of Revelation. But if people realize that the book of Revelation is a state of the being as being human, it's like the seven churches in Revelation, it's talking about the seven energy centers. And when people really understand that there's another way to look at the scriptures, it's mind opening, it's mind blowing, and it's fascinating. I will say this if I can. There's a website called Spirit of the Scripture .com, and it really helped me on my journey because I was a Christian, right? And now I'm like, whoa, everything's real from nothing's real. I had to make sense of it with the book that I trusted so much, and I still trusted to an extent. I know it's been corrupted and changed, but it really helped me out when I realized that that book is Eastern philosophy. It is Eastern mysticism. It is all religions. It's about us. It's about you. It's about the human condition. So, but yeah, I do recommend Edgar Casey's interpretation of the book of Revelation. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. That helped me a lot because that book of Revelation kept me in bondage. I was really scared of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting to think about, like the shift from a book that basically scared the shit out of you growing up, right? Like and then and then turning it into something that is so meaningful and impactful in your life. It, what do you take away from that now?
That's the thing. I want to take that and I want to be like, hey, I want to shout from the rooftops. You guys, this is what it means. Like,
Uh-huh.
and you know what's cool? Like, I'm figuring out. Like, I just wrote notes last night on. I want to. Okay, I want to have an audience. First step, but I want to be like, okay, guys, do you know what an emotional trigger is? What about a mental trigger? Do you know what those are? And I want to be like, this is what they feel like, okay? And then explain that, and then be like, now a person that can receive information that doesn't judge it but receives it, um, and kind of deciphers on their own if they want to receive it or not. Those people are the lucky ones because they get to say, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore. I'm going to take on that new belief, and they get to evolve and grow, right? But when we have triggers, what they do, an emotional trigger brings up emotion and it could feel uncomfortable and we just don't want to hear anymore. A mental trigger will immediately think of something else. Like, oh, we don't want to think that anymore. Those are triggers. And I want to tell the crowd, I want to set them up with that. Those are what triggers are. Okay. And then I want to go in and I want to tell them an impactful truth that a lot of people don't realize, right? And then I want to be like, okay, did anyone get a trigger? Yeah, everyone? Okay, well, now what we want to do is acknowledge the trigger and take in what I said again and weigh that out, guide them through the trigger part first, and then go through what I want to say because that's the thing. That's why people aren't able to grow and evolve a lot of times is because these triggers that feel so real and they feel like it's like death staring them in the face if they receive any more information, and that is how mind control works based on those triggers. People don't want to stay in neutrality, they want to block, they don't want to receive and allow. they're triggered, so they kind of block it. So I think that's going to be one of my speeches.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right that like the triggers are oof, they can be challenging to work through,
Yeah.
and especially if you're not aware of them or really how to
Mhm.
work with them.
I know.
It's everyone has them.
It's
There's
scary.
something, you know,
I
that they've
know.
been through, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's it's interesting to think when you were talking about, you know, the people that grow and evolve, that how they can take a thought or whatever and weigh it out and decide, you know, how if they want to accept it, reject it, whatever. Um, in a way that kind of reminded me of like meditation. And so like where you're kind of taking a step away from the thoughts that come through and evaluating, okay, what is this thought? Why am I thinking this? And that sort of thing. And so um, that's pretty cool to think about it from like both emotional and mental.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah. See, because when we're in that lower brainwave state, we're not reactive, and we can like because a lot of times we can get triggered by what comes up from our own body, and yeah, we're able to really receive it. So yeah, you're so right. So it's kind of like letting the crowd know you're safe. This is just words. You don't even have to believe it, but are you triggered by it? If so, why are you triggered by it? But yeah, so because a lot of times I'll be talking to someone, I say a lot of things that are out there. I get that. Like, I'm not like a lot of people. And I know I'm not perfect and I know I'm not always right. But sometimes I say things and I can tell that people, they have these tics where they're like, they start whistling and you can just tell, oh, they're not listening anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I want to be like, hey, you just had a mental trigger and, call them out. But it doesn't work like that. Because these
That's
people are
interesting.
boring, so there's that.
No, well, I think it's interesting that you can recognize like when people kind of like mentally check out. And I think that's another good way of looking at it too, is that it's or of that being a mental trigger. Because I think initially when you said mental trigger, I was like, okay, what does that mean?
Okay, so do you get do you get it now, or do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, if you could dive into that a
Okay.
little bit more, that'd be great.
I haven't researched this. This isn't like published, and I could be, but this is what my interpretation of it is. Like, so there's an emotional trigger, and that's clearly when anger comes up, and usually that's rooted in a belief, right? So it's kind of mental initially, but really an emotional trigger is when there's emotion that comes up, mostly negative, and then a mental trigger is when you're talking to someone or whatever, and they kind of just they're a neuropath. They go down a different neural pathway. They're not receptive anymore to what mentally receptive to what you're saying or what they're reading or whatever. Like they can have a tick, like they'll start like whistling or singing a tune, or they'll bring something else up or something like that. But yeah, you get it?
So
Does that make sense? Because I kind of just made all that up. Doesn't it make sense though?
no, I think it does. Where it's they mentally they can't comprehend what
Yeah.
it is that you're saying that, and
Hmm.
so they just
Hmm.
their mind goes a different way
Yeah.
as a maybe as a means to protect themselves, or
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't I'm
And
not
I
sure, but
understand that for sure. It
yeah.
is.
So how have you kind of worked through, you know, the challenges? I know that you are a truth seeker and that you want to help share that to other people. So how have you managed, you know, conversations with other people where they may not have got it or they just don't get it?
Oh, you know what? Bless my mom's heart. Well, she's one of them. In the beginning, because I was like studying the chakras and sound healing and uh, tarot cards, and she would make fun of me and call me a witch, and it was kind of funny because now I'll be like, okay, mom, I'd go like, I'm gonna go meditate, right? I'll be like, mom, I'm gonna do a seance, so don't come in. But yeah, so like I realized that some people just aren't gonna be ready, and I love my mom, but it's like God's in control and everyone has their karmic journey. And that's what I had to realize. Everyone that's their karmic journey, that's their karmic journey. So if I can say what my heart feels led to say, but if they're not receptive, bless them, that's their karmic journey. My husband's amazing. He's in a position where he's like, he doesn't know what to believe. Like he has fantastic Christian parents that are kind of walk the walk more than like what I've seen. They're just heart led, and they are like Jesus. And so he's like I can't betray this kind of faith. Like, look at my parents, like that's how they do what they, you know what I mean? So he
Yeah.
had a different kind of upbringing, but he's still like a seeker's heart. So he's like, I know there's more. I know everything
Yeah.
doesn't fit, so I don't know where I'm at, right? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's okay. So I'm not
Yeah.
like the you would have to believe what I kind of let everyone. It's their karmic journey. What's whatever. But I that's why I want to get great penetrating speeches, and whoever will hear it, um and just try to unbind the mind via my words.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you make such a great point about um, just allowing people to kind of walk their own journey. And if the message is meant for them and they get it, then great. But if
Hmm.
not, then maybe it's not time for them, which is fine too. Um, but I think it's interesting that you had um, your husband now, he came from a Christian background as well. And but it was like a stark contrast to what you were brought up as. So how was that experience for you?
I love it because I think it's just a matter of being heart led or not, and his family is heart led. And not saying my family isn't, but they there's a lot of toxicity and wounds in their past. The way they were raised, my mom was taken to a shelter when she was 12 and kind of dumped there, and and religion saved her and made her realize that she is loved, etc. And then my husband's family, they had a great childhood, and I think it's a matter of how much their hearts were nurtured is how much they're going to live by the heart. But it is interesting, right? Because it's like there's one spectrum of it. That's the thing about religious doctrine. It's like you could see someone that just murdered someone that claims they're a Christian, and then someone that just donated $1 million to whatever cause that helps humanity that is not even religion based at all. It's so vague.
Yeah. Yeah, that is I guess the difference in who would consider themselves a Christian and what that means to them, there's a big range of what's out there.
Yeah.
And I totally get like your mom's perspective too, where it's like this is what saved her. And I know that a lot of people have turned toward religion as a means of, that was their savior in a sense of what has helped them in their lives. Um,
Yeah, big
but
time.
I also know that it can be taken too far.
Yes,
um,
exactly.
and so it's amazing that you were able to experience this other side of it as well with your husband and his family and just being very heart led. Um, eh, if you could explain, I guess, what it means to be heart led, how would you
Ooh.
describe it?
I'll just say real quick though, I agree that I'm so glad I got to see that. And I know that was divinely guided as well because
Healing, probably too.
right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, what are the odds of that, right? Like they're a Christian too, and my mom and dad are amazing people. They're so special, but it's just they kind of they walk the walk of the Christian faith, and that's pretty amazing. And what I mean by heart led, I guess, is um, the attributes of love, which is remaining neutral, unconditional love, non judgment, patience, kindness. Like my parents are kind of like, well, screw them, cut them up, blah, blah, blah. Like if I can explain how they were towards my ex husband, really. And I get it. There was awful things that happened. And then like my husband's parents are like, well, like pray for them, and kind of like that. It's just the way they treat others generally is what I'm saying is like the way they treat others when others wrong them is what I guess I'm saying is that's when you really can see who's heart led and who's not. Everyone can be nice, but when you're offended or hurt, how do you respond to that? And that's a big difference that I see.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel like that's shaped you in terms of like how you operate from like a heart led space?
Well, you know what? I think what's changed for me because I always felt like I wanted to give from the heart because, that's just kind of who I've been. It's how I've been created. I want to love everyone and give. I think what changed for me is it went from like a self sacrificing kind of love thing where I just gave and got taken advantage of and abused and this and that to like, hold on. I am to be loved first. I'm going to love myself, fill my cup, and then I am happily going to fill everyone else's cup. So it kind of like went from ignoring myself to loving me and being able to love others through loving me, if that makes sense. But because I've always kind of been um heart led, it just isn't in a toxic way anymore. It's not sacrificing myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that some people confuse loving others or being caring or kind for, you know, allowing others to take advantage of them or not filling up their own cup first. And I think it is important to fill your own cup. I mean, I'm a bit of a hypocrite here sometimes too, because I definitely give and give and give, and
Mm.
sometimes don't take enough time for myself. But it's a challenging thing to kind of work your way out of too, if that's what you've been conditioned to do. Um, so for you, like how have you, I guess, shown yourself love?
Let's see. Well, I listen to my body. Um, uh, I listen to my body. Number one, like, am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling great? Am I feeling whatever? I prioritize. Like, I like to go hike down the street a lot. I go hiking. That's a thing for me. I need to move my body and exercise, and I prioritize that. And then I speak my truth. I think that's a big thing. Like, I say how I feel. I figured out a way to say how I felt and do it with finesse and love. And that wasn't easy. I would rather stuff it down and betray myself than figure out the words to tremble and say how I felt. Like, oh my God, that was unheard of. So I just figured out a way to be able to project myself and to say how I felt. And I realized, whoa, I can say however I felt, no matter how fierce and raw it is, and I can do it with kindness. And I'm not in the wrong. Heck yeah, I'll take it. So I figured out a way to do that. And yeah, but like I guess really is listening to your body. Am I feeling exhausted? Yes. Okay, well, let's go rest, and prioritizing that and speaking your truth.
So for somebody else who may struggle with, speaking your truth, what advice would you give them?
Well, you know what? I would acknowledge this first. I would say, okay, there's a feeling that comes up in your body when you feel like you want to say something, and a lot it could be anger or whatever, or even joy. Someone's afraid to say how happy they are, whatever. You allow, number one, allow that feeling to be in your body, feel it and love it, allow it, whatever it is, negative, positive, allow it to be there, right? And then you can even say, if it's not the time, you say, thank you. And you put it in a little box within you and put a bow on it because it's all good. And you say, I'm going to come back to that box later. And then when you're alone, now you open that box with the bow because it's all love here. And you say, okay, how am I really feeling about it? How am I feeling? And then you really feel how you're feeling. And then you've given yourself some time. Now you're like figuring it out on your own. And then you just say, okay, this is how I feel about it. My feelings are valid. Now ask yourself, how is there a way I can say this and do it kindly? And then you got to have the courage though. So um, number one is allowing it to be there, talking to yourself and saying, okay, I love that you feel that way. We're gonna talk about it. Let's talk about it when we have the alone time to figure this out. And if you have to say it right away to someone, hey, I'm not sure how I feel right now, give me a minute and I'll come back to that, and then do your thing. So, but yeah, it really helps me to take the feeling. I don't know how to say anything about it. I don't even know what the feeling is right now. I'm going to feel it, allow it. I'm going to put it in a pretty box with a bow because there's no hate. And then I'm going to come back to it and figure this out with myself, and try to keep it positive, whatever feeling it is, because it's valid. It's you. We honor that. And then once we figure out what the feeling is, then we'll figure out how to project it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yay.
The the idea of putting it in a box in a bow to go
Yeah,
and open up later,
right.
and because I think there's a lot of, I would say, confusion, but just not really sure how to handle emotions because a lot of us weren't really taught how to handle emotions,
I
right?
know.
And especially people who are have parents to young children too. It's like they're going through a lot of big emotions that we
I
don't
know.
necessarily know how to deal with, which can be
Yeah.
really challenging.
I,
But I love that idea of taking it and putting it in a box, because that's like you're saving it for later. It's not suppressing it, it's not ignoring it. It's acknowledging that it's there. You don't really know what to do with it yet, but that you're going to get back to it later. And I think that's really important.
agreed.
I've been like the queen of suppressing emotions through my life, and so
Yeah.
being able to work through that and being able to have the ability to hold whatever it is that comes up and work through it, understand it, feel it, and let it out too. Has been so healing, so
Yeah.
important in my own growth too. Um, so I guess when you have gone through working with your emotions and allowing yourself to be heart led, I know you're a mom. How have you used like some of these tools as you're parenting them?
Well, gosh, mine are like teenagers now, and they used to listen to me and be like, "Okay, yeah, okay, mom." Now they do, but they're like, "Okay, mom, now you just keep talking." It's so humbling having teenagers, but they do, and I kind of do the same thing, like the box thing, and um, teenagers aren't the easiest. It's so crazy. I think a lot of it is us learning because they go from like this stage of just like receptive and the feminine energy type, right? The non-ego, like, okay, mama, you're the boss, you're the king, queen of the world, I trust you, and then they have their own identity, and they're kind of like and they start resisting things, and and challenging you, and it's like it's so humbling for me. So I feel like I'm in the stage now where I'm the student, and I do give my, I'm a coach is what I do. It's who I am. So I do, they hear an earful from me all the time, especially when they're, I don't, especially when I feel like it's warranted for me to give that information. But I think it's crazy, but right now I feel like I'm more of the student right now. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Well, I do feel like parenting in itself is just like
Totally.
this learning experience, really,
Yeah.
on multiple
I know.
levels. And
Isn't
so
it so humbling too? Even with toddlers, they tell you the truth.
it is, it is. It's also sweet,
It
but
is.
like it's fascinating because like you never really know what's going to come up, and I think there's a lot of things that you start to realize about yourself too as you're going through like the parenting journey, and because they reflect back a lot of what you put out there too. Um, so I know that you had mentioned that a lot of kind of what you had been through started in your teen years, and so having teenagers now, like what is that experience like for you?
Oh, you know what? It's funny. It's like I feel like without even trying, I naturally I love freedom. And
Do you have Sagittarius placements? I
you
can't
know
remember.
what? I guess I do. I have Jupiter and Neptune there. My sun is in Pisces and it's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. So um I guess in that way. And I'm talking about Vedic. So but
Okay.
as um but no, weirdly enough, not really. I don't really if we're talking tropical, just Uranus. Isn't that funny? But I am oh, my self node.
Oh, okay. That explains it. That explains a lot of
Oh,
it.
okay, exactly. I just realized that. But yeah, so I didn't have a lot of that when I was a child, and so for me now, it's kind of like I know how valuable that is because now I know that God isn't outside of them; it's within them. And if I empower them to know that they have like the power, the mighty power of all of creation within them, that they can become, stand in, and let lead their life, then they're going to be okay. I need to see them as that, and I could guide them, but ultimately that's kind of how I parent them as their teenagers, is knowing, again, karmic journey, which is kind of a level of a detachment as a parent, because they're very independent kids, but at the same time, like, I'm going to do my best to guide them, and I'll tell them what I want rather them do or want, but at the same time it's like I'm the mom. My husband is the stepdad. He's amazing. Like, he's great at teaching and talking and guiding. But as far as like holding down, like spanking them if they don't listen, like we're not that kind of parents, right? Their dad's kind of gone. So it's kind of like that's what we have to do. We just have to let them, we have to trust them. And I'm pretty impressed. I think we're doing a pretty darn good job. My oldest, she left school sophomore or junior year, got her GED, and she's in college because she wants to like get out of the system. She wants to be independent, do her stuff. And my son, very independent. And then my daughter, they're all independent kids. So I feel like we'll see. I'll let you know in like 5 to 10 years if this is a good method or not. But it's what my heart's saying. It's what my heart is saying to do, trust that they have the creator of all that is within them and let them know that often and, remind them that they're loved and see what
Yeah.
happens. Yes.
I love that. I love that well, one, that you're leading it from your heart, like walking the walk, right? Like you said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and allowing them to just be themselves and explore. Because I think that's a huge part of being a teenager, like going from your teenage years through your 20s, is that self discovery, like who
Totally.
you are. And it's already a confusing time. And so, like, having your parents shoving down your throat of this is what you need to be
Mhm,
doesn't help either.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. If it were my like my ego's way, I Chaz would be their dad where he can like say, "No, you're not leaving," hold him down and we'd figure it out. But that's not my heart's way like you said. That's my ego and I'm leading by my heart. You know what? If I've been given independent kids that are strong-willed, loving, great, fantastic kids that everyone loves, but they're strong-willed, then I'm gonna listen to my heart and what that says. And so far, so good. I could not be happier in my life right now.
Love that for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
I do. I
you.
really do.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I was taken back to a conversation that we had. I think it was probably like the first time that we had talked, where you were talking about, staying at home with your kids and uh I guess the challenges in terms of, financials and things like that, but doing it from a place of love. Like this was something that you wanted to do, and then just being taken care of because of it. And so that gave me a lot of faith in taking the step that I did with like leaving my
Oh,
job. And
I'm so glad. Oh, good. Because,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's just such an important part of life too, is that like allowing yourself to be led by your heart and trusting that everything's going to kind of work out the way that it needs to. And I think you're just like such a perfect example of that right now in what you're doing.
I appreciate that so much. There's a healthy level of detachment. Um, yeah. And, um, I don't always have faith in things, I can worry sometimes. But yeah, first of all, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I think that if I'm going to be hard on myself, I feel like what I'm working on now is this feeling of discontentment. Like I'm happier than I've ever been before in my life. And we've had less money than I've ever had before in my life. I don't know how that works, but I love it. And I feel so blessed in life right now. The only thing that I can say that I'm ready to let go of is this discontentment. Like I want to change the world. I want to hurry up and change the world. And that theme of consciousness is pride. So I need to move out of that, and move into more like neutrality, allowing. And I got that from the book, The Inner Work. If we feel like we're only going to survive if we help others survive, that's the vibration of pride. And that's kind of where, it's not like that dire to me. Mine is kind of like, I have this gift, I have to share it, or I'm not content, and that is an illusion. And so I'm working on that now. But that's where I could use a level of detachment in my life. But yeah, I'm really good at letting go and trusting the unseen. As a Pisces, I have a connection to it, so I kind of just know that we're not in control at all, really, and so might as well like stop the fight. Like every soul is so amazing and magnificent and powerful and just beautiful, and it's like, okay, why not just let that soul be a soul and trust whatever it's going to do is for the perfect path of everyone involved.
That's hardcore faith right there, right? It's trusting that everything is kind of working out the way that it should be, and that following your own path is going to lead you to where you need to go. I can understand the struggle with being detached from, the outcomes of what you feel like you're called here to do. Um, that's when you kind of know that you have something that big that you want to do. It's hard to keep that off of your mind and stay detached.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, life is always challenging us to continue to work and
I
be
know.
better.
And it's not a bad thing, right? I think mine is like, I know how much I was suffering, and I know it was like literally a switch of a light bulb. So it's like, oh my God, it's that easy for me to transform. I want to be like, where's a megaphone? World, this is what you need to do, And like,
Yeah.
I feel like I could do that, and but it hasn't worked out that way. So I have to figure it out and just have patience.
Yeah. Well, I think you're making the right steps, right?
Yes,
So,
exactly. Thank you.
yeah.
I hope so.
So I think you are. It's you have an incredible story as far as everything that you've been through and that you have overcome in order to be where you are today, happy, which is like a lot of people can't say that they're happy with their lives and where they are. And so um, I think there's a lot to learn from you and everything that you've gone through. So
Thank you.
uh, if anybody is interested in following along your journey, your words, whatever, how can they get in touch with you or stay in contact with you?
They can follow my Instagram or DM me on Instagram. It's in all the world, only one.
Then I know that you are also starting your blog. Is that or Substack? I'm
Oh yeah,
not
my
sure what the.
Substack, same username in all the world, only one. I've posted one thing, and there's a lot more to come. So I'm actively working on getting out of my comfort zone. I think that was my biggest block, is afraid of being seen, which is actually one of the reasons. One, I love Susan and I want to be on her podcast, but two, this is my first time publicly like exposing any of this. I've been in Pride for a long time, so I haven't really. Um, I've been afraid to show the world that I'm not perfect, and I wasn't perfect. So, yeah, so this is my first time publicly sharing any of my past. And I think this is the first step towards posting more and getting that megaphone and speaking to the public.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm proud of you for doing
Thank
this
you.
and having the courage to come on here and share your story. I think it is going to be helpful for people who, you know, may be dealing with the same sort of thing and not really sure how to express it in words
Yeah.
or have any faith for the path forward. And so I think that, your words will touch a lot of people. So
Thank
it's just the
you.
beginning.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I want to be respectful of time, but thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story and your vulnerability. I loved all of it,
Oh,
um, and I hope more
that
things to come for you. I'm
this was
excited. Of
awesome. Thank you. I feel really good after sharing all this. So thank you for having me on your podcast.
course. Well, thank you. And if anybody else wants to follow along Kristy's journey, I'll tag all of her information in the show notes. But until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.